This message is about listening to your guidance. You may reflect back over your life and recognize all of the times you were being guided prior to your awakening, where you were getting messages to go this way or go that way. And maybe you didn't necessarily the first time listen. And your soul was trying to guide you, God was trying to speak to you, your team was trying to support you in the spirit realm. And yet you wanted to listen to your human or ego or separate mind and continue down the path that you were on. And there's so many times they come in and will rescue or try to get you out of that situation. Once you have awoken, you are aware of the tools, you get held to a higher standard of accountability for yourself. You're no longer asleep, you're no longer just moving through life, and you understand that you're accountable to your choices, you're accountable to your actions, you're accountable to whether you listen or don't listen to the guidance being given. And I'm sharing all this to bring awareness when there's times that we maybe aren't listening to the guidance, and there can be pretty profound repercussions or say quick kickback because you didn't take heed to the message or the call when it was asked. I'll just go into a little bit of my story. So I know I previously had mentioned that I was guided to step off of social media for a bit, and I had to do some clearing up energies in that space. Originally, I didn't know the purpose or the reason, and I didn't listen to the guidance. I had Life Created coming up, and I wanted to be able to share that so more people could be involved, and I felt like that was really important. And I was slightly running on my ego because I was questioning God, and I was getting the message that it was like, you don't need to be going on social media right now. And instead of taking heed to the call, I'll make this one last video and I'll just post it, because aren't I supposed to be doing that? It was still on the highest timeline to be doing that and providing that. And I posted my video thinking everything was okay and I was cool. All right, I got something out there. It's not like I just created this event and then didn't even share about it for people to join and participate and to reach my soul tribe or to reach those that are intended to be in there, because I was providing this service for them as well, for them, for God, for myself, as part of my assignment and part of my mission here. And I didn't listen to the original message of not going on there. And immediately after I posted, I was getting, what's the right word? I don't want to utilize, I don't even want to say energetic attack, but when we do this work and we make our dedication and we make our strong declarations to what we are serving and our service to our mission or to God, to source, creator, and you get a lot of attention, whether it's perceived by the human as positive or negative. You can get moths to a flame. And I was kind of thrown off by the whole situation, that it had been someone that I had been communicating with in a way of support. And I think that was another lesson to this too, was where I had stepped into maybe a supporter, rescuer, to support an individual in what they were moving through. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother subject in itself. If you look at the Trinity, the victim, the rescuer, and the perpetrator, and how that whole dynamic plays out when we haven't purified those expressions to no longer participate. A whole nother subject, but just a little explanation about that. And so didn't take heed to the call, got that immediate kickback, and I've had this individual basically question and make a whole lot of comments, I'll just say, that were unaligned, a lot of questioning, a lot of manipulating in their, I guess, questioning of me and my work and who I work for and what it all means. And I was like, okay, that's why you weren't wanting me to not share about this right now. That's fine. Beautiful. Lesson learned. But the more that this person kept digging, my guidance was don't respond, don't engage. And I realized afterwards, and this is how most of these things happen when we jump into our human aspect rather than learning to just listen to the guidance that we're being given without questioning it and without wanting to understand it. But sometimes we have to go through these beautiful lessons so we can see it, cognitively understand it, and be able to move through it, and lesson learned. And we know in the future to not either do that unless we want those drop downs in our energy field to happen. So during the engagement, just I was being guided to not even respond. And I started going into explanation, trying to soften what was happening for that individual, even though they were coming at me sideways. And that's where I messed up too. As I was having this engagement and I was being told don't respond back, I, one, was getting a little ticked off, and two, felt like I was needing to somewhat provide some support or guidance because it was just coming out of left field. I thought maybe there was some other layers to that situation for that individual. And as this was all going on, I felt this immediate heavy energy coming towards my field. I wish I could explain it and give you the visual, but it was just this massive weight. And recognizing now that I had stepped down into a lower timeline rather than staying on my highest timeline, even when this whole situation transpired, after that I took heed to what the message was and stayed off social media for the amount of days I asked what was the directive to how long to stay off. I had let that bother me for the whole rest of the day, couldn't shake it. Didn't have the time or the capacity to clear what was needed. And then the next day woke up in a completely different timeline. woke up in the old timeline because I or didn't listen to the message that I was not supposed to engage in the first place, that God had a bigger plan that I didn't see, and I didn't need to try to control it from my human perspective. I just needed to listen. And so now, looking in retrospect, after all of that had transpired, I made some very strong declarations for my life that I was no longer going to engage and participate in the engagements and relationships that are not in alignment with my highest timeline, unless it's from my Sacred Heart's truth to reach in and actually support someone, or in my Sacred Heart's truth to meet someone where they're at, rather than having them rise to my frequency, to meet me where I'm at. Anytime I post an event, you've got to be open to, you're going to receive both the perceived negative or perceived positive, and I'm fine with that. I'm cool with people not resonating. And so what happens when we step off our highest timeline or alignment with God, source, creator, and whatever those strong declarations are that we make for our life, if we are trying to create, we have to be willing to not engage. If it is something that's engaging you in a lower dimensional expression, if it's something that you're being guided not to do, or if the experience is having you drop down to have to over explain or try to validate someone else, that is no longer a part of my experience. And that can drop us, when we do the drop down, can drop us immediately into a lower timeline, or an old timeline, or even a old earth timeline, because we're reacting out of old behaviors or old paradigms of reality. And it can happen so quick, and we don't even recognize it, and we're not even consciously aware of it, that it's even transpired. And we start wondering why we're feeling weird, or something's not right, or this isn't my normal vibration. I share all this to say, if you are choosing a higher timeline, you're making a declaration for your highest timeline in alignment with God, source, creator, it's okay. It's all beautiful. If you step off the timeline, you can always pull yourself back on point. You can bring yourself and your energy back onto the highest timeline, but you definitely will notice a shift. I'll say that. You will definitely notice a shift if you're stepping off of it, because you start entering this very weird reality where you're like, how the heck did I end up here? Or what is this? Because it's just so abnormal to what you're currently on or what you've been on. And so I'm going to say this, it's so important to take the time first thing in the morning and getting connected and making those strong declarations, and being willing to not engage in situations, conversations. And if you're playing into victim, perpetrator, rescuer mentality, that dynamic is going to definitely pull you out of any highest timeline, because you're not being strong within yourself. That's what I've learned. Biggest message is not grounding myself in who I am, and feeling that I need to come in and help others when it's not aligned. It is not God's directive. It is not on my highest timeline to be helping them. Yes, us as light workers, star seeds, wanting to provide support, we want to help people, and sometimes it's not our role to actually go in and help these individuals, because they are not willing to rise up to meet the occasion. They have not taken heed to the call of the work and the guidance that they've been getting, and we cannot interfere. There can be big repercussions for in interfering with individuals' paths, where we are actually paying the proverbial consequences for doing so, because we were not supposed to support in that way. I felt like that was really important, so people can maybe be aware in your own life. If you're declaring to be on your highest timeline, you're going to have to be willing to let go of some of those people, some of those situations, over explaining yourself, and just holding your strong pillar in who you are without having to validate or accommodate for others, and also having people meet you at your frequency rather than doing the dip down or overgiving of yourself. And we're going to see a beautiful crane right here, I think. Why? No, it's cool. Very cool crane over here. Just saying. Always listen to the messages. Actually, I want to show you because it's actually very cool. Can we see it out there? I'm not sure. Oh, there it is. It does not do justice. I want to zoom in, and it does not do it justice at all. Where is that? You see it somewhere over there? There we go. Nature always gives me beautiful messages. I had a hummingbird fly by my face, and so, anyways, that's what I wanted to share, just for awareness. Engaging in some of these old behaviors or with people will actually pull you out of your highest timeline if it is not in alignment with God, or it's not in alignment with your Sacred Heart's truth. And so with all of that, I am sending everybody so much love.